in my Hall of Fame video from a year ago, I tried to warn you guys that 2021 was probably going to be the most controversial year in voting history because it was the 10th and final year for guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling, but it was also the first year that David Ortiz and A-Rod were going to be on the ballot. So to me, the controversy was going to be with the players. Now it's shifting towards the voters. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down 6 different ballots, and I have no problem doing this and critiquing these people because they volunteered their ballot results. So if I want to go ahead and break them down, that's okay. I don't feel bad whatsoever if these people are getting called out because they chose to do this. And some of these ballots, downright embarrassing. Let me just say that right now. There's 6 of them, and number 5, I think the most confusing part about this entire process is we no longer have a set criteria of what is a Hall of Famer and what isn't. It's completely arbitrary, and in my opinion, it's quite frankly condescending. These voters, or at least some of them, they give off a vibe that they think that they're better, that they're such perfect people, and they're not going to vote for certain players because they're better people than them. It makes no sense. It's bad. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break down ballot number 1. This is coming from Jack McCaffrey. Remember that name. So he voted for Ryan Howard. He voted for Jimmy Rollins, but no Scott Rowland, no Todd Helton, no Barry Bonds, no Roger Clemens. So even if you're not a steroid guy, voting for Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins doesn't make sense all the way. Now, don't get me wrong. Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard, they won MVPs at their peak. They were some of the better players in baseball. But in terms of longevity, Jimmy Rollins was a below average hitter over the course of his career. And Ryan Howard, unfortunately, because of his Achilles, wasn't able to maintain his health over the course of 10 to 15 years. So to me, they're in the Hall of Very Good. But the fact that this guy did not vote for Todd Helton, Scott Rowland, I wonder why that is. Oh, let's see. Jack McCaffrey is a Phillies writer, so he took his bias into the voting, left off future Hall of Famers Todd Helton and Scott Rowland, didn't vote for Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens. That's a different story for a different day, but not voting for Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner, and then you give Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins a vote, and then we find out you're a Phillies writer. That's horrible. Moving on over to ballot number 2. This is coming from Lynn Henning. So it starts off pretty solid. There are votes for Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Todd Helton. Okay, like I mentioned, this is a nice start. I am cool with those picks. But then you don't vote for Big Papi, and then you vote for A-Rod, but not Manny Ramirez. So the reason why I bring up David Ortiz is because he has the same speculation of taking steroids as someone like Sammy Sosa. I got that from watching Foolish Baseball. I am not taking credit for having that perspective, but to not vote for Big Papi, but then give votes to A-Rod, who got caught twice taking steroids, but then not vote for Manny Ramirez, who also got caught twice after Major League Baseball came out and said, hey, you cannot take steroids. We are actually going to follow through with these procedures and ban you if you are caught, unlike Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, when they were using at a time where steroids were not legal per se, but they were not being held against them by the commissioner, Bud Selig. So again, very confusing. You vote for Bonds, Clemens, and Helton, but then you don't vote for Big Papi or Manny Ramirez, but then you vote for A-Rod. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Ballot number 3 from Sadiel LeBron. I don't even want to look at this one. So this person votes for Roger Clemens, Andy Pettitte, and Manny Ramirez, but not Barry Bonds or Alex Rodriguez. What in God's name did I just say? Clemens, cool. Andy Pettitte and Manny Ramirez, but not Barry Bonds, probably the best baseball player in the history of our beautiful game, or A-Rod. Okay, A-Rod, I understand that. He was busted twice, but Barry Bonds, remember, yes, did he take steroids? Absolutely, but it was at a point when Bud Selig and Major League Baseball were turning a blind eye, and they were not fining or suspending any guys for taking it. Andy Pettitte admitted that he took steroids. Manny Ramirez got caught twice, so how can you vote for Manny Ramirez and Roger Clemens, but then not vote for Barry Bonds and A-Rod? Again, the theme of today's video makes absolutely no sense. What is the criteria to be a Hall of Famer? We have absolutely no idea. Ballot number 4, I don't know who this is from, but they voted for Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, and Scott Rowland. Okay, I can get down with all 3 of those guys. Andrew Jones, one of the best defensive outfielders of all time. He's got 400 plus home runs. Jeff Kent, one of the best power hitters, if not the best power hitter at second base. And Scott Rowland should have been in a few years ago, but then says, they're not Hall of Famers anymore, and scribbles them out. Use all 10 votes, please. I don't know what these voters have in the back of their mind of, I am going to save my votes for the next year, whether they use 4 votes or whether they use 7 votes, or in this next ballot's case, 0. Let me just repeat that. Steve Marcus thought that there are 0 Hall of Famers on this year's ballot. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself as both a baseball professional and, honestly, a human being. I'm gonna go there. Who do you think you are? You think that you're better than everyone? The fact that you didn't give a vote to Scott Rowland, the fact that you didn't give one to Billy Wagner or Andrew Jones or Todd Helton or any of the other supposed clean guys, it just... I'm so annoyed by this. Steve Marcus, who, again, let me ask one more time, who do you think you are not voting for anyone? So let's go ahead and move on to ballot number 6. I don't know who this is coming from, but they voted for Barry Bonds, but not Roger Clemens, or David Ortiz, but then they give a vote to Curt Schilling, who last year said, hey, do not vote for me, take me off the ballot. He wants to go in on his own accord and be voted in by his, counterparts on the Veterans Committee. And again, if he wants to do that, that's fine by me. But how can you vote for Barry Bonds but not Roger Clemens? Roger Clemens is essentially the Barry Bonds of pitchers. It was very understood that they were taking steroids, but it was at a time where Major League Baseball was almost saying, hey, keep on doing that. You are saving the game of baseball and you are carrying our viewership on your back. We're going to turn a blind eye and not bust you for steroids. But then as soon as your career is over and we actually push the narrative that steroids are bad, we're going to go ahead and make you a social pariah. But it doesn't make any sense that you would vote for Barry Bonds, but not Curt Schilling. So at that point, that was all 6 ballots. That's really all I have to say for today's Hall of Fame Voters Should Be Stopped video. It's just, quite frankly, condescending. It's embarrassing. It's arbitrary. I don't know where to begin and end as to what makes a Hall of Famer and what isn't. So thank you all so much for watching. To end today's video, we're going to go ahead and roll a small clip from Bob Gibson talking about cheating, and whether you agree with it or not, please let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, that does it. I'm gonna go take a nap or something. This is just terrible. It's terrible.
Oh, I don't know that it's really tainted the game. If you probably go back and check, guys have been cheating ever since baseball's been baseball, one way or another. And you're talking about the old White Sox scandal or whatever it was. The guys have just been cheating, and they throw spitballs, and if you can get an edge, you get an edge. Now, this is something that was unacceptable as far as our society is concerned. So it got so much press that it got probably bigger than it should have been. It's something that's illegal as far as our country is concerned, and I think that's probably the biggest problem. But I'm just glad that I didn't have to make that decision on whether to do it or not, because I'd been one of those guys you were right about. Probably would have done it. I don't know. I like to think I wouldn't have, but I don't know if I'm that strong. I thought somebody was getting an edge on me, and I found a way that I could get it back. Maybe I would. Don't know. I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision.